It's been a long time, but I remember it well. Just like the photo we keep on the shelf. Oh, we were young. Oh, we were young.
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. There are a lot of stupid ways to spend money. Famously, in Alaska, they built a $10 million bridge to nowhere, literally a bridge that went to nowhere, no place. It cost $5,000 to go in that little submarine that went down to see the Titanic and went, and it cost $500 for a nice ticket actually on the Titanic that didn't end well. But those aren't the stupidest uses of money ever, ladies and gentlemen. There are other stupid ways to spend money. Apparently, Christian organizations spent $20 million worth of cold hard cash for spots during the Super Bowl. Now, some of these spots were like for Mark Wahlberg's prayer app. Okay. So, I mean, the Catholic prayer app, I don't see any real major problem with that, ladies and gentlemen. And Mark Wahlberg certainly is like based Catholic and lives out his faith. But one of these ads was a very controversial, some would argue blasphemous and hearsay ad from a group called He Gets Us. This group that claims to be Christian published an ad with a bunch of still images of people kneeling down and washing the feet of other people in society. Now, in every single image, there was a oppressor versus oppressed power dynamic dictated by leftists. Now, that's not a reason enough to dislike the ad. I think we're going to talk about the actual scriptures, actually, when it comes to our dislike of this ad. And I very vehemently dislike it, in fact. This ad is subversion of my Christian faith. But let's take it at face value. In this ad, there are people like a priest washing a gay man's feet, right? There's a anti-abortion protester washing a girl's feet that maybe just had an abortion, presuming. Right? Family planning clinic. And various other power dynamics. Here's a woman from a white picket fence neighborhood washing the feet of a criminal alien migrant, right? That broke into our country. Here's a popular girl washing the feet of a punk rock girl, I guess, maybe. So who is He Gets Us, and what are these ads all about? Well, He Gets Us declined to comment on the specific expenses for the adverts, but given that the going rate for a 30-second was $7 million, they could have spent close to $17 million across their two ads. That's before factoring in the cost of the actors and so forth. Not every single one was impressed with the spending. You do realize that Jesus, the one I've known all my life, would not approve of commercializing glorification Super Bowl commercials costing millions of dollars, money that could have been actually used to help those in need. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, memes were made featuring Jesus Christ. Sorry, I would feed all of you, but I have to spend $14 million on two ads during the Super Bowl. All right, there are lots of memes actually based on this advertisement, okay? So first off, and here's the He Gets Us X handle. Let's go ahead and look at this advertisement that's been ratioed into oblivion, okay? Let's actually watch the ad. Here we go. So here's the cop with the black guy, the popular girl with the punk rock girl, an Indian with a cowboy, a woman with an abortion clinic, drug addict or something, a guy like a climate activist getting her feet washed. Notice that the only people ever getting their feet washed are the ones who are the oppressor versus the oppressed. Okay, it's really important to understand this power dynamic because the entire ad is shot through a leftist worldview where the climate activist is getting the climate activist is being served. Migrant in the neighborhood, the migrant in the neighborhood, I guess again, BLM protesters versus other BLM protesters, I guess. God, I can hear this protest. It hurts my ears. To a black man and a white man on a southern porch taking a bath together as they hold each other's hands. Okay. There we go. Okay. Jesus didn't teach. Hey. Well, so here's the thing, right? And like, again, I simply claim, and I do this often, to be a simple Christian, okay? I am not even remotely a theologian, nor do I pretend to be. I'm a simple Christian. I simply read my Bible, and not even all of the Bible. I've read the Gospels, right, for instance. And so in the Gospels, what they're talking about is the washing of the feet story with Christ, where, to summarize this, Christ washed the feet of his apostles, his closest followers, people that would become saints inside of the church, right? Peter, who said, you won't wash my feet because you are the Christ. Right? And then Christ washed their feet, washed all of the apostles' feet, and said, you call me teacher and Lord, rightly, for that is who I am. Now that I am your teacher and Lord, I've washed your feet, so you should also wash one another's feet. I've set an example for you, as I have done for you. Very truly, no servant is greater than his master, messenger greater than the one who sent him. So what Christ is saying here is that I have, even though I am the Lord, I have humbled myself and I've served you, and you should also be servants. All right, that is a good message. Just important to like actually look up the scriptures and read from them, right, instead of my interpretations of them. And so, why are so many Christians, a lot of them who I deeply respect and probably have far more theological knowledge than I do, like hate this ad? Well, because actually, while Christ did wash feet and didn't teach hate, Christ also didn't teach tolerance. This is really important. Like, Christ did hang out with sinners because all people are sinners. Christ went and hung out with like very unpopular people, prostitutes, tax collectors, but he didn't do that in order to compliment them or to embrace or affirm their sinful lifestyles. He did that to correct them. For instance, ladies and gentlemen, when the prostitute washed Christ's feet, which of course was an act of servitude in the Bible, Christ said, I don't condemn you, go and leave your life of sin. Sin no more. Here's every translation here. In every translation, Christ says, do not sin anymore to Mary Magdalene, who was a prostitute. Do not sin, please. Go and sin no more. Do not sin any longer. From now on, sin no more. Like, that was actually the message of Christ using the words of Christ. So Christ is not about, like, Jesus Christ does not preach tolerance. What this ad, to me, seems to be projecting is that everything is permissible. And that everyone's lifestyle and every choice, sinful or not, is to be not only appreciated, but to be encouraged and celebrated. No matter how nihilistic or selfish or degenerate or sinful it is. I mean, there's literally a woman at an abortion clinic, which is murder, okay? That is what it is, okay? That's the way I see it. That's the way my religion sees it. That's what Christ teaches. That's what the 10 Commandments say, way back in the old books. Okay, thou shalt not murder. Pretty high up there. Like, this ad seems to be like saying, nope, all of this is permissible, which is actually not what Christ did when he came into contact with sinners. He said, go and sin no more. I mean, it seems pretty simple. Christ didn't teach tolerance. Christ taught salvation and to be born again. And one other important thing about Christ is that Christ really didn't like people who subverted the church. This is something also that is very scary, something that actually keeps me up at night, quite frankly. I never want to portend or to ascribe unto myself some type of knowledge beyond like what I have read in the scriptures themselves. I don't claim to be some type of great teacher. I don't claim to have some type of intrinsic wisdom. I just read the Bible as it is. Okay, so let's read the Bible as it is. When Christ was confronted with sinful activity inside of the church, using the church as like a marketplace and an animal shelter, and to like make profit off of. Got to have some profit if you're going to spend $14 million on Super Bowl ads. What did Christ do? He made a whip out of cords. This is from John 2:15. He drove them from the temple courts, sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and flipped their tables. Jesus made a whip with ropes and chased them out of the temple. Drove the sheep and cattle, scattered them when he was like confronted with sin against the church, with using the church for profit. This is where you get tweets like this. He gets us. Jesus making a whip. He gets us. Fire, brimstone. Yeah. So what it really seems like to me is that these are leftists that are engaging in hearsay, bastardizing the teachings of the church for their own political ends. You'll notice that along every single dividing line here is some type of hot button issue for left-wing causes. Softening up the Christian church and saying, nope, it's time to get on your knees and it's time to simply tolerate everything that we want to shove down your throats. And that's actually not the message of Christ. If I may be so bold as to interpret the scriptures that I've read, they hate you, says Kingsley Wilson. Candace Owens, who is a Christian, says the psychological conditioning of Christians in America continues. Too many Christians in America are weak and will defend the faiths of others without defending their own faith. To be publicly mocked and ridiculed by the media. There can be no doubt seemingly never-ending denominations has allowed this. One of the typical biblical names for the devil is Ho Diablos, derived from the term diablon, to throw apart. If God is the great gathering force, sin is the scattering force. What is divided will eventually be conquered, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the attempt to conquer the faith of Christians and the attempt to conquer Christianity as it currently stands in this country, which is, again, at a weakened state. And these leftists are trying to weaken it even further. Turns out that the people behind the He Gets Us ads don't even claim to be Christians. Well, what do you know? It includes people who don't believe in Jesus, don't believe Jesus was the Son of God, but simply have a deep admiration for Jesus or are curious about the Jesus story. This explains a lot. He gets us. He gets us in a diverse group of Jesus followers. Oh, that's an interesting way to say that. With a wide variety of faith journeys and lived experiences. Our work represents the input from Christians who believe that Jesus is the Son of God, as well as many others who, though not Christians, share a deep admiration of the man who Jesus was and are deeply inspired by the curiosity to explore the story. Here's another thing that Jesus said. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. That one I know by heart. So this isn't going to fly. Not for me to actually tell you that. You can just read that in the scriptures if you cared to. But it seems like these people in the He Gets Us, here's the actual webpage. How did the story of a man who taught and practiced unconditional love become associated with hatred and oppression of so many people? This is like leftist swill propaganda. This is agitprop. This has no place in the church. This is actually, like, reading this now for the first time, like, this is actually hearsay. Jesus Christ is not a man. And he did not teach unconditional love. He said, go and sin no more. He didn't say you're perfect as you are. Like that, those are the words. That's the words of the Bible. And then over here, this is John 2:15. Christ made a whip and beat people and flipped tables. He made a scourge of small cords and drove them out of the temple, the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money and overthrew the tables. Well, okay. What is that supposed to mean? That's not unconditional love. That's Jesus actually being quite angry. I've never made a whip and whipped people before. I don't think I've ever flipped a table out of anger. That's a very angry person to have done that. And that was the Son of God. Pretty enraging, actually. And it seems like these people are manipulating the soft hearts and minds of a weakened Christian church in order to further divide the country and usurp the actual teachings of the Bible. You should be deeply wary of it. You should also be deeply wary of people that are willing to spend this kind of cash, tens of millions. At least they spent tens of millions. They won't say how much they spent, but they at least spent tens of millions on this. I can think of some really good uses for tens of millions of dollars, like a lot of people that you could help for that. But what is the actual goal? Is the actual goal the usurping of the church and the faith itself? Based on the evidence here, yeah, actually, yes. This is actually ultimately the intended goal. And so in that capacity, maybe that money was worth it because that is what all these people care about. This is getting like absolutely roasted, by the way, this ad. Jesus did not tolerate sin. He did not wash the feet of the woman at the well. He reprimanded her and told her the truth. You are committing idolatry and creating a version of Christ in your own image, for the sake of modernism. Afterward, Jesus findeth him in the temple and said, Woe unto him, behold, thou art made whole, sin no more. Worse things will come unto thee. Sin no more. Sin no more. Delete your account. Christians should stick to telling the truth, something Jesus did, and refusing to compromise on that. You guys are doing Satan's work in sheep's clothing. We can do the same by calling people to repentance, by excluding white people, obviously. Yeah. I hate these ads. He gets us. Pretty sickening to see Christianity used to promote obviously leftist political messaging. It cheapens and debases the spiritual significance of Jesus Christ. Blasphemy. Do not fall for satanic symbolism. That's exactly right. Who paid for your airtime? Turns out it was a left-wing billionaire that paid for this. So much like everything else in society, this is a subversion tactic. Don't be fooled. I know you won't be. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. Stay based and read your Bible.